Most of us might face difficulty in understanding the ideologies of various philosophers in the very first go. I assure that this particular video would be addressing that problem and would be helpful in making you understand about the various ideologies of the philosophers very easily. Hello everyone, this is Vamshi and I welcome you all to my channel Aspiring to Achieve UPSC CSC. In this particular video, I am going to talk about contributions of contributions of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and the world, which is part of GS paper 4 ethics. Now let us get start with the video. In this video, I am going to talk about Socrates philosophy or Socrates ideologies. But before moving forward to Socrates philosophy, first we will be trying to understand what was the reason for the emergence of philosophers in the ancient times, and lastly we would also be seeing how can the Socrates philosophy can be incorporated in writing the case studies. Having known about how the video would be progressed and what is the video is all about, now let us get start with the video. If we try to understand the reason for emergence of philosophers in the ancient times, when there was a prevalence of monarchy form of government, people were not free to exercise their own rights. In that light, people were not having a happy life, not leading a happy life, and at that moment, various people came up with their own set of ideologies, where they have mentioned and they have talked about how the human life has to be and how humans have to lead a happy life. In this context, one such person who came forward and spoke about how the human life has to be was Socrates. Now let us try to understand and let us try to see what are the various principles that was proposed by Socrates in order to have a happy life. The first principle which was proposed by Socrates was the concept of ideal life. The concept of ideal life of Socrates was virtue based, and this particular ideal life principle was focused on having self awareness. When an individual has self awareness, it would lead to self reflection, and once an individual try to self reflect themselves, there would be a development of an individual. So the concept, it will lead to the self reflection leads to self development. And other thing which was mentioned by Socrates is having materialistic life is materialistic. Having a materialistic life is an enemy to lead an ideal life. So, through the principle of ideal life, Socrates focused on having self-awareness, where it leads to self-development of an individual, and also he mentioned that materialistic life is an enemy to lead to have the ideal life. So as the ideal life is based on virtues, let us try to see what are the virtues which was proposed by Socrates to have an ideal life. So there are 4 virtues. One is justice, second is prudence, third is fortitude, and fourth is temperance. Prudence is nothing but to be mindful. People has to be mindful on what they are doing. So if we try to incorporate this in public administration, the civil servant has to be mindful on what their functions or what their activities are to be. And having fortitude in general, it is meant that showing courageous even in the face of adversities. So fortitude, showing courage, which is one of the public service value where the public servant has to be. Even in face of adversities, public servant has to show courage in doing their duty. And temperance means having self restraint. Even if we try to incorporate this in administration, the public servants has to have the value of self restraint, even when there is a chance of attaining the ends through unethical practices. So self restraint, which is temperance, fortitude, prudence and justice, which are the four virtues to have an ideal life, which leads to which leads to an individual self development. This is the principle of ideal life which was mentioned by Socrates. This is the first principle what Socrates has mentioned about. And the second principle that Socrates has mentioned was ideal man, where the ideal man is just concerned about doing just actions in the sense having providing justice in an unbiased manner and not showing any favoritism, etc. So without any worry about the personal consequences of the personal consequences, the individual or a person has to showcase, or also or has to follow in order to provide just action, where an individual is only concerned about what they have done is just or not. So irrespective of personal consequences, just they focus on just actions. This is the second principle which was mentioned by Socrates. The third principle of Socrates was Socrates intellectualism, where it focuses on having true knowledge and wisdom, which leads to having virtues or morals in their behavior. If we try to understand knowledge and wisdom, knowledge is nothing but to have the facts, and wisdom comes when if any individual is able to implement the facts. So implementation part of knowledge is nothing but wisdom. So Socrates intellectualism is of having true knowledge and true wisdom, so that it can lead to having virtuous or morals in the functioning of the individual behavior. And the fourth principle which was mentioned by Socrates was Socrates encouraged critical thinking. So Socrates believed in questioning the assumptions and also emphasized on the importance of critical thinking. If we try to apply this in administration, it is very much necessary for an public servant, before taking any decision they have to analyze the ideas and analyze the ideas of all the stakeholders, and they have to critically analyze them, and then after they have to come up with a proper decision, and thereafter they can implement any policy over there. So this is the fourth principle which was mentioned by Socrates, which is a critical thinking. And the fifth principle where Socrates mentioned was to have an open communication. In order to build trust in any of the organization or to resolve conflicts, and to promote collaboration within the organization. Socrates has emphasized on having open communication and honest. The communication has to be open and honest. So this was the fifth principle which was mentioned by Socrates. And the sixth principle, another principle which was mentioned by Socrates was continuous learning. And this was very well can be applied in administration, where the public servant has to keep his mind open, his or her mind open, in order to learn new things, and this continuous learning process has to continuous learning process has to be lifelong, so that there would be development within the organization and they can stay competitive as well. So these are the six principles which were mentioned by Socrates. Let me try to show you all the six principles. So these are the six principles where we can incorporate these principles while writing the case studies. Let us see next how we can incorporate now, and what could be the principles which can be incorporated in writing ethics case studies. There is one particular case study. Let us see over here. The above mentioned case study was a previous year question which had come in 2022 mains examination, where it mentions Ramesh is a state civil service officer who got the opportunity of getting posted to the capital of border state after rendering 20 years of service. And Ramesh's mother has recently been detected cancer and has been admitted in the leading cancer hospital of the city. His two adolescent children got admission in one of the best public schools in the town, and after settling down in his appointment as a director in the home department of the state, Ramesh got confidential report through intelligence sources. Illegal migrants are infiltrating in the state from neighboring country. He decided to personally carry out the surprise check of the border posts along with his home department team, and thereafter he caught two families of 12 members red-handedly, and they were crossing border with the connivance of the security personnel. And also if we go further and see, however, Ramesh wanted to notify this situation to his superiors, and Ramesh prepared the detailed and comprehensive report and submitted to the additional secretary of the state. But he was summoned by additional home secretary after a week and was instructed to withdraw the report. So in this case, they were asking to mention about what are the options available to Ramesh as the director of the home department, and what option should Ramesh adopt and why. And at this particular case, we can just try to write or else we can incorporate the principle of Socrates of ideal life, where we can mention that by let going the own set of values, Ramesh could not be able to follow the principles of ideal life which was proposed by Socrates. By mentioning this particular statement, and by mentioning the principle of Socrates, you can just mention this particular question: what option should Ramesh adopt and why he has to adopt. You can just mention that by adopting this set of values, Ramesh can ensure that he would be following the principles of Socrates. So by this it is not necessary to completely mention what exactly Socrates has mentioned in ideal life, but writing the ideal life would be would be fetching you an extra mark than your competitors. So by this by this we can just mention and or also we can incorporate these values while writing the case studies. So by this we have come to the end of this video. I hope this video found informative, and in my future videos I would be coming up with Plato and Aristotle as well, in order to make you people understand the ideologies of Plato and Aristotle very easily. And also I am thinking to make a playlist on all the various philosophers, and also I will be also mentioning what all the principles which can be kept handy, so that we can reflect that particular principles in the exam very easily, not in a haphazard way. So by this I would be concluding my video now. We will be meeting in another video with the Plato principles. Thank you all and happy learning.